and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland Preview Podcast. Sunderland are gradually getting back to playing regular football following a COVID outbreak in the middle of December, but the elusive 3 points still seems to be escaping the claws of Lee Johnson and his team. However, this Saturday we face AFC Wimbledon as we bid to return to winning ways for the first time in over a month. And joining us to preview the game is one of my favourite people in the whole of the football world, Wimbledon director Ivor. How are you doing, Ivor? You well?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you very much. Yeah, really pleased to be back with you, and looking forward to playing the mighty Sunderland again on Saturday.
Might not be as mighty as you might have thought, but then again,
If there's one game I was looking forward to this season, it was playing you lot again down at our place, because the last time we played it down there, we had such a laugh with the fans. The guys that came along, and we're still in touch with a lot of them. They've been emailing us and want to save the tickets that they bought from the game last season for next season now. It's kind of they are absolutely fantastic, and that's if you don't get up this year, which is a debatable point, I guess.
Debatable is the right word, absolutely. I think first things first, it wasn't actually that long ago since we faced each other. I think it's a month to be exact, but so much has gone on in between those fixtures. So we'll rewind back slightly to, I think it was the 15th of December. For the fans, the news of the COVID outbreak broke pretty late. There was rumours, but when it actually got confirmed, it was fairly late. And then we took the news on, and then it was straight into watching the game. Can you run us through a little bit what it was like to be on the opposite side of the fences, like in AFC Wimbledon, director there?
I mean, we first heard about it. We were actually at the train station on the way up, and it was like, are we getting on the train or aren't we getting on the train? Are we getting on the train or aren't we getting on the train? That kind of thing was going on. But basically, this is the truth of it. We had a COVID outbreak ourselves, and we lost a few games. They then made us play 4 games in 8 days. They made us play 5 games in 11 days, and then you start to wonder why your team's out of form. Well, first of all, some of them have had COVID. You don't know which ones of them have had COVID, but some of them have had COVID. And then they're being asked to come straight back, having not been able to train properly, and start playing straight away. They haven't had a full week. They haven't had a pre-season. With us, we came back on the Thursday, and all the players were back in on Friday. But guess what? We were travelling to Rochdale that day. So in those games, 3 of them were away from home, including a trip to Barrow. I mean, it was utterly insane what was going on, and it made no sense to me. And that's why all I would say is at the moment, the effects of COVID can be quite drastic on the team. We've not won since then. We've not been able to put a win together for since we haven't won since we played Sunderland. Although we've lost a couple more games since then. And I believe that COVID and injuries and that period of games that they made us play, shoved in so tight, has really took the wind out of ourselves, because we were doing really well up to then.
It feels like that as well, doesn't it? Because there's so many games to fit in. There's just, anyway, in this league, there's a lot of games to fit in, but it's, what is it, game every 4 days or something like that?
Yeah. But we landed up doing more than that. They made us go to Barrow on the Thursday. After we'd been to Rochdale on the Saturday, Gillingham on the Tuesday, Barrow on the Thursday. Then we had to play at home to Crawley in the Cup on the Sunday. Peterborough at home on the Wednesday, and then after that, the wind went out of our sails completely, because that just slayed us, really. So but we're getting back to it now. We've got a fitter squad again now. We had another load of COVID cases, but they made us play Lincoln, top of the league, when we literally had, I think it was 13 senior players out.
Yeah, I read that.
But because it was only 5 of them out for COVID, just let them play the rest of the game. It's just like, wow, that is like harsh, isn't it? But so I think that from what I understood, that was a similar kind of situation at Sunderland. I think there's a number. And until that you're over that number, you don't get a game called off.
Yeah, I think we had a few players that were injured, I think, at the time, in general, and then there was players you could guess had COVID by the fact that they weren't in the lineup. And I think the whole day after that news broke was just a bit weird. Like you're watching the games in the house anyway, which is weird to begin with. Um, I don't know. Obviously, you can't speak on behalf of the players because you're not them, you're not in their head. But I suppose when you're getting on the train to go up and then the players hear that, is there an element of like some players think, do I really want to be playing this? And you've got to start thinking about like, do we play it? Can we forfeit it? Or what do you do?
I don't think well, the players definitely didn't know until it actually came out publicly. It came
Yeah.
out publicly when we were halfway up. You know, we all of a sudden it's like, oh, blimey, they've got a COVID outbreak. Should we be doing this? But then some have had it anyway. I mean, to my mind, I think it should be a club's decision as to whether a game goes ahead or not. I think,
Yeah.
and I think Sunderland had their way that day. The game would not have gone ahead. I
Yeah.
think that's the case, but we're never going to really know the full ins and outs of it. And what I will say is that you're better off to get that game out of the way, because otherwise, that fixture pile up just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. I think we had
And
3 games, I think it was after that, but I got suspended. Or actually, it ended up being 4. And I think now looking at it, I can't remember the exact figures, but it's a lot of games in a short space of time because obviously we're speaking before it, but at the time of speaking, we're both in the pizza trophy as well, aren't we? That adds
yeah,
extra games to it as well. Sorry, the Papa John's to give it
that's
its
Papa
correct
John's.
name.
Well, I mean that for us is a bit of a blessing because we've hardly played, you know.
Yeah,
So we play tomorrow night, and that's almost like a kind of pre-season friendly type game. Not a pre. We want to win it, of course. We want to win it, and we all need the money from a cup run of any sorts, really.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
that would be very nice to have a cup run. Um, but yeah, so it's really difficult, and I just think that by the more games you can actually play, even though you can't field your strongest side, it's happening to everybody in the division.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's the
no one's
circle.
disadvantaged, are they? It doesn't feel that way anyway. It feels like everyone's had a period where someone's had it. I mean, Sky Sports the other day, it was just there was one team getting knocked out right, left, and centre, and you weren't really banking on the game happening until about 3 o'clock on the Saturday. But
I know.
that's 2020, 2021 season, which I don't think any of us will forget in a hurry. Um, I'm very very lucky enough to have been one of the only Sunderland fans that's been in the Stadium of Light since COVID's happened, based on my other role with a women's football team. Obviously, you were there as well. You've been in there when it's been full. You've been there when it's been jam packed. Loads of fans celebrating goals. You've been there when there's been about 15 people. I understand how eerie it is, but what's it like as an away team coming to the Stadium of Light when nobody's there?
It's utterly bizarre. I mean, one of the things that I would say when we came to Sunderland before, the welcome that we got there was magnificent. We got looked after fantastically. Everyone was so kind and pleased to see us, and it was brilliant. Driving up to that stadium, literally with nobody there. It was so bizarre coming up in the coach, nobody there. I mean, I did hear that there were, I think it was one or two Wimbledon fans actually were outside the stadium. They're people that live up north. Clearly they live up there, and they just wanted to be close to it or whatever. And one of them was on a bike. Apparently, I never saw him, but I heard that, which I thought was really nice. To be honest with you, yeah, it was surreal. It was so surreal. You're just looking around you in this massive stadium with nobody there, and the game was. Uh, I mean, for me, the games are still intense because I'm so
Yeah,
passionate about the game and so on. So I'm still like, come on, boys, come on, boys, come on, boys. And I kick every ball, and I come out just as tired as I always do from playing 90 minutes. That's what it feels like to me. I promise you. Um, but for the other, just in general, looking around, and the fact that I could actually have a chat with Ian Dowie halfway through it, like oh, we're doing all right here, Ian, aren't we? And he's like, yeah, you're doing all right. It's just like, you wouldn't even, he wouldn't be able to hear you. It's just so very very weird. And it's such a soulless experience. very few people, but a few people have said, "Oh, you're so lucky you get to go to games." Well, I did. I'm not anymore because I'm shielding, but you know, you're getting to go to games, and I'm like, do you know what? It ain't. It's not what you. It's no,
No, it's not, is
no,
it?
no. It's not. This is not what I call a nice experience or something that I choose to do. Um, but what made me very resolute in going to as many games as I could was talking to a couple of the players. The one that I know quite well because he used to rent a room from us here. He used to have his digs with me and my missus, and and he said to us in no uncertain terms that they really loved the fact that a few of us made the effort to go in these difficult times and that we
Yeah.
were there, and that meant a lot to them. And I'm like, oh right, okay, really? And he's like, no, no, really. We look up to see if you're there, and knowing that you're there means something. Okay, that's nice. Part of the team.
Yeah. I
Part
mean,
of the team.
it does. Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you scored a goal in the stadium light as well, which my team did the day that I was there, you can hear such a loud echo through it that it actually does sound a little bit like support. Not the same, but it's got a little bit of, because it echoes so loudly around the stadium. You can definitely hear. I mean, we've heard the amount of Sky Sports commentators apologising for the swearing on TV. It's just unavoidable. I think in this day and age, you might as well just put a disclaimer on there. I think it'd be like a load easier. But what I found weird about that day that I went, we were in the away dressing room, but it wasn't the away dressing room. I've waited all my life to get in the dressing rooms at the Stadium of Light. I go there and I'm in the press box. I'm in the press room and on the shirts on the chairs. Were you the same? Were you in the press? It's a press room, isn't it, that you get put in?
I think it was a bar or something like that that they were in, but I don't know. I wasn't there because the way they
Ah,
do the games is they zone it very strictly, and which is really a good job. Otherwise, I think I'd have got it because so many of our playing side got it. Our management team and everything. It was but at the games, you've got red zones and amber zones.
yeah,
Not is it amber?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
Amber. Yeah,
yeah,
from
yeah.
memory, yes.
Yeah. And so one can't cross with the other, and that does stop you mixing properly.
Yeah,
And the games are relatively safe, I think, for visiting directors and so on. But now with it being so virulent, I wouldn't take a chance. It's just a weird thing, We went into a bar. I can't remember which bar it was. I'm sorry. In the main stand, and we had like a garage sandwich given to us, in a packet, a packet of crisps, a bit of chocolate, cup of tea if we wanted it, and there were four of us, and there were, I think it was four or five from Sunderland there. The CEO and a couple of others were there, and it's just like this is the weirdest thing. You all wish each other luck before you go out, and you shout across the room at each other, go, "Oh, that was all right, wasn't it?" And it was, that it was just totally, and they left before we did because we were on the coach. You
yeah,
know, and it was just like, oh my word, this is just like the strangest thing in the world. But it has to be. I personally think the game should carry on now. I didn't, but now I do. I think so many teams have had it. They're young, fit men. As long as they everyone's very careful when they travel and so on. Which we took our COVID officer with us to Sunderland, and we stayed in Durham. So we stayed after the game.
yeah,
So the next morning at Durham Station, our COVID officer was on the gate, making sure that everyone had their masks on.
yeah,
You know, and then you have to have your mask when you're travelling and everything. And as long as everyone's compliant and they don't do the old footballer thing, where they think they can um, do what they want, which is something I would discourage hugely. Then I think that we should try and carry on because personally, and this is really just me, I need something to look forward to at the weekend. I know I can only watch from my front room, but I actually I need that now. I feel that I really need that. And if they take that away, it's going to be heartbreaking.
yeah.
It'll be
I feel like
heartbreaking.
that.
Not,
A 2 week break's not going to make a difference.
well, I think if they did it, they'd do it for a month, and then it's like, oh, we'll review the situation, and it's like, well, yeah, we ain't going to be out of this in 2 weeks.
No.
Enough to say, right, start doing stuff again now. So it's only my opinion, but I'd be happy with us
Carrying on. Yeah, me as
carrying
well.
on. Yeah.
In reference to the game itself, before we completely leave it, I think probably got to be careful what we say here, but there was big rumours that the EFL, I think, didn't give Sunderland the guidance that they wanted for them to make a decision based on the game. As the away team, that kind of, I suppose, in a way, the decision's almost taken out of your hands. But did you think it was the right decision to play that particular game, or would you have preferred, ideally, for it to be called off at the time?
I think that having had that COVID experience already as a club, you were better off playing it than not playing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
purely because of what's happened since, and you would have another game on your hands now. Would we have liked to have found another date rather than come up to you that date? Yes, we would have done. It would have been better for us. Because although we played a slightly weaker Sunderland team, we were weakened ourselves still from recovering from COVID
Yeah.
and the sheer weight of games that we'd had. It would have been better for us to come up when we were fresher and maybe with a slightly revitalised squad, some injuries back and so on.
Yeah.
So I think you can dress it up whichever way you want to dress it up. From our point of view, you know, once we're on the train, we want the game to go ahead. But from your point of view, I honestly think that it would be a blessing in disguise that you actually played that game.
I think sometimes with games like that as well, it's kind of like when you're ready to go on a holiday and your plane's being cancelled and you've got to go the next day sometimes. That's how it feels when the games are getting cancelled. Feels a bit
Yeah.
like,
Just what else do you do?
yeah, like there's nothing really else to do. It's like you've planned for this day and it's difficult because obviously I think there's certain players and certain teams, in my personal opinion, that have maybe taken the biscuit with the advantages that they have at the moment, going to Dubai being an example for one particular team, and things like that. And there's a few instances where I think a little bit like the advantage has been taken by individuals and by clubs. But I think essentially most clubs have done the best they possibly can to stay completely COVID safe, to keep the season going, because like at a lumpet, it's the national game and it keeps our spirits up, and we haven't had a great deal to deal with. I think it does have to plough on, in my opinion, unless it gets seriously bad, but surely it can't get any worse than it is at the moment.
Well, I mean, the other point is, and this is very much Ivor talking personally. Um, the players haven't had to give a lot in this, and if we did go into complete lockdown again, where we stop playing, they'd still be getting paid.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, I believe once you sign a contract with someone, you're duty bound. But these are different circumstances now, and I think there are other things could have been done. Because the players are it's like a law unto themselves, and I don't think the PFA cover themselves in glory with all of that. So for everybody's sake, at the moment the clubs are getting a little bit of revenue in. It's not a lot. It's not a lot, but Sunderland are getting huge attendances on iFollow,
Yeah.
as they always do, and they get money from that. And you take that out, they're not getting that money.
There's nothing.
The sponsors, our sponsors, have been unbelievable, fantastic the way our sponsors have been. But if plays stop completely now, would they carry on being as understanding and as magnificent as they've been? I don't know. I can't speak for them, but it starts to get difficult to keep paying for stuff that you're not having.
Yeah, throws it into doubt, of course, because then you've got no advertisement in programs, no advertisement, and so many things you can still sort of do in a roundabout way. Probably the weirdest element for this, it's kind of away from COVID, but kind of still on it in a sense, because it is, we don't want to talk about it, but we kind of have to. But it has been a momentous year for Wimbledon. Obviously, you've returned to Plough Lane. The lack of fans aside, as someone who's been there since the very beginning of the Phoenix AFC Wimbledon, still Wimbledon to me personally, but as somebody who's been part of the club as it is now, how proud are you to be sort of where you're at in that new stadium, and what was the feeling like getting into the ground?
I mean, to be back in Wimbledon is just, I mean, it's everything to me personally. It broke my heart when we left Plough Lane the first time, and to be back now is incredible. It took me 3.5 minutes to get home from the game the other week. Literally 3.5 minutes. Fantastic. But it's so tinged with sadness because we haven't got everybody in. On top of that, because of COVID, there have been some people that didn't live long enough to see us play there.
Yeah.
There's a fair whack of that, and that feels really harsh. It's a harsh environment we're living in at the moment, and the first game, and it's something I will never forget. When the teams ran out, I immediately felt a huge sense of anticlimax.
Yeah.
It was just like, yes, I'm delighted, I'm pleased, but emotional. No, I wasn't emotional. It was an anticlimax because I know that there should have been the biggest build-up ever to that game. We should have, our fans would have been there hours in advance. There'd have been a massive party in Wimbledon, like you can't believe. Really, really, to go home, and all I could think was it's just a stadium full of ghosts. Is what it felt like, full of ghosts everywhere, and everywhere you looked, and it, So at the moment, I'm obviously delighted that we're home. It's more convenient on every level for me. But until everybody's in, it doesn't feel like home, and
Yeah.
it won't be home. But um, we will be there. We'll be in, and that's going to be amazing.
With the situation, we've all got a little thing that keeps us going, I think. Is one of the things that keeps you going is seeing the fans in that stadium and thinking, I don't know when it's going to be, but at one point, I
Yeah.
get to see the second homecoming, even though we're already home, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. One of the things that I say that really surprised me a lot was when we played Charlton at Charlton, and that was the only game I think I went to with the crowd, with just the
Yeah.
2,000 in the crowd. That was magnificent. It was magnificent. It felt magnificent. And I've got to say, the Charlton fans were incredible.
Yeah.
The Charlton fans were incredible. They made a noise. They were behind their team. We went 1-0 up. We should have held on to something that day, but there you go. It was, but to be there, to hear somebody stand up and, "Ref, you don't know what you're in doing," and getting back to what football was all about, typical Wimbledon, always lumping it and all this, that, and the other. When we just played this beautiful move through the middle and scored a goal, all the bollocks that you hear every time you go to football.
Yeah.
That's what we live for. That was the thing that that's what first attracted me. I went to Plough Lane. The first time I went to Plough Lane, there were three things that got me. There was the smell of the hot dogs. Yeah, the smell was much better than the actual taste, I can tell you. Then where I was standing, but 'cause I was only a little kid, and I was taken to the game, so I was standing at the front of a terrace, by the south stand, the old south stand, and I could smell the liniment on the players, and that was something that you don't get anymore. But I could smell it then. That was amazing, and then the banter in the crowd. I mean, I was like a 6, 7 year old kid, and there were people just shouting things out randomly. And I didn't really understand most of it, but I understood that some of it was, you don't know what you're doing and blah blah blah. And I was just like, oh, this is fantastic. This is great. That banter, and you can't get that banter with 15 people in the stadium alone.
No.
It's never going to happen, is it?
It's few and far between at best, I think, isn't it? Even the celebrations, like I say, echo, but they're still kind of, it's so different, isn't it? But another side of sort of this season and the way that it's gone is the transfer market is probably slightly different. Now, I think we've been here 3 years. I've gradually got used to the fact that a lot of the time it's loan signings, free transfers, Bosman contracts. I think I understand that anyway, but the COVID situation, finances and everything has made everything so much more difficult. How is it navigating sort of the transfer window in a COVID world at the moment? Has it changed much, or is it relatively
Yeah,
similar?
yeah. I mean, it's like our attitude to it right now is, one out, one in.
Yeah,
That's it. One out, one in. Yeah, that's the only way you've got the budget to do anything. So as long as we're sticking to that and being careful and doing what we need to do, it's great. There's no reason not to do it. It's the same thing. It's negotiation and finding your way around. I think that players that got contracts at the moment are very lucky to be being paid to play football in this climate is incredible. So I don't think a lot has changed on that front at the moment. Certainly not for us. I think for clubs that are used to being able to go out and spend money, that's a different story. And I did see that you signed a young lad from somewhere today, didn't you?
Forest Green, Carl Winchester,
Green.
undisclosed as is the world these days, but that indicates money has exchanged hands, I guess.
It indicates that something's changed hands. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean, to me, that's the typical kind of transfer that clubs like us, although we might have to go a division lower to do the same kind of trial, or even a division below that, and you have to unearth those diamonds, and we all have to unearth them and polish them up a little bit, get them out there, and hopefully you got the next Jamie Vardy.
yeah,
You know, that's what we're all searching for and all hoping for, and there's good players come and go along the way, and then it's just a question of how you spend your money, isn't it? Do you spend it wisely or do you spend it stupidly? You never know. Not all transfers can be a success, and particularly when you're taking them from a lower division, you never know if they're going to sink or swim.
yeah.
You don't. You know,
You've
it's the
got to
way it
take that
is.
punt. I think I was watching Accrington the other night, and I think it was like they're back to two of their back three. Sorry, it came from League Two, and their centre forward it came from Southport and Leamington Spa, which is a bit of a different world to maybe what I've been used to with Sunderland. But it made me think because obviously I knew this conversation was coming up. AFC Wimbledon are a club that have, since I've known the club anyway, done very similar things. You've kind of plucked players from maybe non-league or from the conference and put them into the first team.
Yeah.
Now, I think recruitment has become a big, big thing world over, whichever level you're at. Recruitment, looking at stats and things like that matters the world over. When
Yeah.
you're a League One club, like how important is it to have such a good recruitment system and people that can identify players?
It's unbelievably important, and we're blessed with having Nick Dawes at our place, who is he came in as specifically as a recruitment guy, but then he ended up as an assistant manager, but he's still heading that up. And he's got an encyclopedic knowledge, and we have got a really good database, and it's really important for us. And I think our squad is stronger this year than last year. Although you might not believe that right now, but I think we actually started off the season really well because we got a genuinely good squad.
Yeah.
Um, Getting everyone back fit, or as many back fit as is possible, getting over the COVID and everything, I think we'll be okay. But yeah, that recruitment side of it is enormous. It is enormous. You just got to get it. You have to get it right, or it's particularly on our budgets. You're going to get relegated. And of course, that's all changed now with the new restrictions.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Yeah, the restrictions caught
ma-
me. I'm only a football manager player, but even caught me by surprise. I forgot that was even in place, and I'm playing my new game of football manager, signing whoever I want. And I'm thinking, oh god, the four of these I can't put in the squad because I'm over my budget. When it comes to Wimbledon as well, and obviously signings, you brought someone I think today, brought a new goalkeeper in.
yep,
Sam Walker came on loan from Reading. The
yep.
loan market is something you've used before. A lot of clubs at this level do. Sunderland weirdly haven't so much this year. Do you think the loan market's just as important as the permanent signings at this level?
100% for us. 100% is yes. I mean, us and you mentioned Accrington, who I think used the loan market better than any other club I've ever seen. They really do. They get great players in, and they fit in with the way that they play, and it's fantastic. And it's amazing what Accrington do. So yeah, the loan market is hugely important. And for Sunderland, I would imagine that you'll get a couple of loans in before this window's out. That's what I would imagine.
Another two strikers would be nice if anyone from the club is listening. Um, Another thing in terms of your recruitment, and this has been a continuous theme since I've spoke to you, you brought in a lot of young players in this summer transfer window, and you have in the past. I think I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong here, but Jacko Oksanen came in from Brentford, notoriously good at recruitment, as we've seen. Ethan Chislett's come in from Aldershot as well. But from a Sunderland perspective, and I don't want you to give away too many secrets because I'm aware you won't, but which players should Sunderland fans look out for on Saturday?
I mean, Oxanam, without a doubt, is absolute class. Joe Piggott's been on fire. and was absolutely amazing up at Sunderland when we played up there. I thought he had a fantastic game. I really did. And young Ryan Longman, who we got from Brighton, he's good. Yeah, I predict that he will play Premier League. He's a proper striker. Him, 19 years old. Strength of it. He's like a bulldog. He's so strong. He's unbelievable. So I think that Oxanen, Longman and Piggott, if those three are having a going day, if they're all fit, I've got no idea who's fit and who's not at the moment.
Yeah.
But no, if those guys are all fit, then we won't be far off our strongest 11. Although I think our at centre back we might be one or two short at the moment, but they're all getting back to fitness, which is the good news.
You mentioned Joe Pickett. Now, that's someone who I think because he's been doing it for the best part of 18 months to 2 years now, specifically against Sunderland as well, each time he's came up against us. Um, Another player that I could be wrong with this, but you took him from non-league, didn't you? I think
Yeah,
originally.
from Maidstone United we got him from.
Maidstone,
Yeah,
that's correct.
yeah. So he
Um,
played league football before, but he
yes.
dropped out the league, and but Maidstone were a decent non-league outfit, so it's no surprise that a player like him would land up somewhere like that because they're local for him, and they're a good level. They're a really good club, Maidstone. So Joe's a great lad. He really is. He's a very. He's getting better and better and better and better. And he was one of those players that benefited from lockdown. Actually,
Yeah.
he came back fitter than he's ever been. We got a new fitness coach last year, and I think that has helped matters a huge amount. Some of our players are fitter than they've ever been. Although now we have got injuries, so
Such is life.
yeah.
Um, Talking about the backroom staff, I think it's kind of a kick in the arse away from almost 18 months that you've had Glenn Hodges at the club, obviously a guest on the show previously. He kept the club in League One last year.
Yep.
Finished 20th, took over in October, so didn't even have a full season. It's not his first job, but it's his first permanent job as club manager. How impressed have you been with Glenn since he's been in there?
Glenn's terrific. He really is. He's a top class coach, which I think everybody knew anyway. He's got great organisational skills. Great motivational skills. I just think that some people don't quite at the moment. There's obviously a few people that are getting a bit angsty, but I don't think they realise quite what what COVID did to us, how much it took out of our really upset the apple cart for us. And then all those games and the injuries and everything that's gone on with it, it's made it very difficult. Now we've had this little reset moment. We've had an easier schedule, players coming back, a couple of new ones coming in one way and the other. I fully expect us to kick on from here. But then I'd say that no matter what. I'd say that if we only had 11 kids playing, wouldn't I? Let's face it, we're going to kick on. And, quite frankly, I wish Sunderland all the best. I desperately want you to stay in this league for another season. I know you don't, and you won't want me to say that, but I want you down at. I want all your Sunderland fans down at New Plough Lane next season. I want you down there. I desperately want you to come to Plough Lane because that would be a day to remember for everybody. And I think you've got a good new manager. I like him a lot. I think he'll do well for you. And so. That's that. So we've got to beat you on Saturday because we need to win more than you do.
But best luck after that, I take it. Yeah. It's funny you should mention that, and you talked about sort of Glenn and certain fans having certain opinions, and that's just the world over. You're never going to please everyone. When it comes to Sunderland, there's always talk that anything less than automatic promotion or even playoffs is a failure. For the record, that's something I fully agree with, based on our stature and our future aims, most importantly. When it comes to Wimbledon, with all due respect and stuff like that, obviously your history, Wimbledon have been in the Premier League, you had to reform, you had to change things around. So when you set targets, it feels like Sunderland set a target where we have to get promoted this season. We have a season aim. Being Wimbledon, do you have more of a long-term aim for getting to where you want to go to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our aims. We've set our aims a couple of times, but and they need to be redone now. We need to reset our aims and objectives because we got so wrapped up with our biggest aim and objective being getting to Plough Lane that lots of other stuff kind of went a little bit by the wayside. Now we need to set a new strategy which is being worked on. And that strategy will help to map out what we do and what we deem as success over the coming years. And for my two Bob's worth, and it isn't just obviously down to me, but I firmly have my eyes set on the championship. I think that one day we will get to the championship, but I think that we have to do it in a sustainable and sensible manner.
Yeah.
You know, and you look at some of the other clubs that kind of bob around a little bit, and we wouldn't mind being one of them. Rotherham being a great example, a club that goes up, goes down, stays within its means or relatively within its means, and that's what we have to do because we've got no big checkbook behind us. Um, so we have to do that, or we have to find very clever ways to make the money to be able to fund a squad that can do that. So that could be through how we sweat our asset at Plough Lane, which is really important. But how our academy does with it's time that we had our big success and sold a player for a few million and then gets sold on 6 months later for a big lump, and we get a few quid. That's the sort of thing that will fund a team, but it'll be done incrementally and it'll be done properly. There's no doubt about that. And that's really important to keep it that way. We must keep it under control. And I, if football is just about winning games, then I'm in the wrong game.
Yeah. Well, I
It's not.
definitely
It's
am.
not about winning games. So, you know. And I think everybody knows and accepts Sunderland are not a League One club, far from it. But while you're here, you are, and you have to get on with it, make the best of it. You have to make the best of it.
Somehow you're managing to keep on coming on to my next question, which is fantastic. It's great for me because you're leading on to it perfectly. We were on Sky for the first time, I think, this season, the other night against Hull with our rearranged game on Saturday because the other game was called off and so on and so forth. I was actually really, really, really impressed with, it was Paul Cook and Matthew Mills, obviously, I think, still currently playing, I think, and their assessment of Sunderland's situation. And obviously, knowing this conversation with yourself was coming up, I've always been quite impressed by your views on Sunderland, and you seem to have a grasp on ourselves as a club from a neutral perspective. But I suppose as an outsider or a neutral looking in, a lot of people seem to not understand the frustration of Sunderland fans. Do you understand why fans are so frustrated, and what's your thoughts on it?
Oh, 100%. I completely understand why they're so frustrated. Any club that regularly attracts 30,000 fans should be in a division where there are other clubs that attract 30,000 fans. It's as simple as that, really. Market forces. That's what you'd think govern football.
Yeah.
But I think that every Sunderland fan knows there's been some interesting choices made at Sunderland. But a lot of it was in chasing the Premier League status, and it's for good reasons. But it's so easy to overspend in football, and now that ceiling it's a real ceiling. No matter who you are, we've all got that ceiling, and the minute you start going above and beyond that ceiling, you put the club in peril. And that's the thing that needs to be realised. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. It's a little difference if you're Man City and you overspend, you've got someone that's prepared to write a check to cover it, or Chelsea and Abramovich digs into his pocket, or he sets things up, he sets the infrastructure up so well that in point of fact, the club starts to make its own money.
Yeah.
And lots of people at Chelsea will tell you that's more or less the situation there. Where the club has made its money now, and that's interesting. So I'm very much, I want to see Sunderland get back up. I've always liked Sunderland as a club. I think that's fairly obvious. I'd like them to get back up there, but I'd like them to do it properly. And if you get the new owners are coming in, and they're going to spend some money, I'm sure, and when they do that, what they need to do is make sure that it's infrastructure that they spend the money on. They need to make sure that infrastructure is there and that infrastructure can take the club up to the next levels. And it's not just by having loads and loads of employees that are qualified to do their job. It's having the best people to do the job possible.
Yeah.
Because you can't spend the money on players anymore because of the wage cap. So therefore, the clubs with the best infrastructure are the ones that are going to do really well, in my opinion. Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to. And Sunderland should have the best infrastructure in our league, bar none. And that's what I'd be concentrating on if I was them. I wouldn't be trying to find ways around the wage cap, because that's really, really difficult to do. And you shouldn't do it. But there are advantages that you can have and that you can get by being a big club that will still get you the players that otherwise wouldn't come to a League One club.
Yeah.
So you should still be able to do that. And a lot of that will be on future contracts and so on and so on. I'll come and play with you this year for $2,000 a week, but if we go up, I want 10.
Yeah,
you can get that in the league above. You can't get that in otherwise that's half your budget gone, isn't it?
And it's also, I suppose, in that sense, it's incentive based as well at the same time. If you're saying you can more than double your money as well. But I think we've seen hopefully the last of it, but we've seen a lot of poor recruitment and poor infrastructure, shall we say, it's on over the past few years. But onto the game on Saturday, we both come into the match without a win. Well, as we're currently speaking, because we both may win tomorrow night, since about the beginning of December, give or take. What kind of match are you expecting?
Well, I mean, it was really weird. Up at the Stadium of Light, when the game started, I thought, oh God, we're going to get killed here. And then we played our way into it and we found our feet. And then actually we there was a good case for us saying we maybe should have nicked that game.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting very similar again. Very, very similar. I expect you guys to come out at us really hard, and we'll soak it up a little bit, and then we'll start to play our game. And hopefully it'll be 0-0 by the time we start to play our game, and then we get our noses in front, and it'll be up to you to come and get us, wouldn't it? I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was a similar scoreline to the last time we played.
Yeah, same. We love a 1-1. We've drew, I think, 29 of 40 games since we've been in League One 1-1. So I'm always going to predict 1-1, which brings me on to my final question. We've spoke a few times. I always enjoy it. But I can't quite remember if you're a predictions man. If you are, what's your predictions for Saturday's game?
Oh, well, apart from a straight 3-0 thumping for us, of course, I think I've more or less given it. Having seen both teams play, and you are, as much as I read a thread on Facebook earlier just to see what the mood was amongst the Sunderland fans, and some of it is quite there's
yes.
Well, there's two-sided fans of every club out there. We've got them. Everybody's got them. I mean, and for Man United fans, there are some Man United fans, if they're not winning every trophy going, they're not happy, are they? So never challenge worse is one of my favourite sayings. So I would suggest that I'm hoping for a sneaky little 1-0, but it wouldn't surprise me if the classic 1-1 came into play at this one on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm saying 1-1. I'm absolutely saying 1-1. We do every game that we play is 1-1, so I'm taking 1-1 again. But Ivor, as you can probably tell, and the listeners can tell, I always enjoy chatting with you, mate. So thanks again for coming on.
Pleasure.
I won't wish you luck on Saturday, but I do wish you luck after that.
Vice versa.
That's how it should be, right? Friendly up until kickoff. That's how it should be, and then friendly afterwards.
And afterwards, yeah.